So much better too. I love my monitor. And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Monday, November 20th. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by Vivid Picks, and we honestly have a great slate in terms of games. 8. It's perfect. I feel like it's the first 8-gamer that I've been able to talk about. I'm excited for it. I hope you guys are. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. It's good because you and I didn't do the show earlier this morning, so this one's going to feel pretty fresh.
Yeah, it feels weird. The slate has changed a little bit also, but yeah, different perspective is always good.
It's always going to be fun. So 8 games, got plenty of time to break it down. Live before lock coming up after this, then NFL live before lock. I'm hoping that people aren't keeping a keen eye on the NBA tonight, since we've got like a real football game, which I'm actually mildly interested in. So yes, Josh is home from Girl Scout camp. I'm no longer in the bunk bed room. So it's nice to be home. Yeah, I like these 8 gamers, man. This is perfect. I would prefer to just drop the Houston Golden State game from the slate and just be done at 8 o'clock. But what are you gonna do?
And we got Greg had said this morning that he really was nervous about that injury report coming out, and we just got Şengün questionable, which really sucks.
Yeah, it's not ideal in any way, shape, or form. But we're going to deal with it now. You ready?
Yep.
Nate says, how's the monitor looking? Awesome. Instead of having a crappy old 24-inch monitor that has been sitting in the closet for a while, I am back at my 48-inch ultra-wide curved joint, and I feel like I'm in like VR. Much better experience. Here we go. Boston Celtics, 8.5-point favorites in Charlotte, 234 total. This is a wild one. We've got games in the mid 230s all the way up to 245, and then we've got Bulls Heat at 208. Completely different game. It's like they're playing a different sport. For Boston, this news did not exist when I did the process show this morning. Al Horford out. I guessed Al Horford out. I did not expect Derek White also out for personal reasons. That really changes up Boston, especially in this spot where clearly matchups against Charlotte, you really want them. But we don't have a ton of ownership going into any individual guy. Peyton Pritchard's 19% owned. Sam Hauser's 18% owned. Porzingis is 15. Drew Holiday's 10. We're getting a scatter shot across a lot of these guys. I didn't mention Jason Tatum, who's actually the low man here. Let's start with Tatum, though, paying up at 10, too. How do you feel now that White and Horford are out?
So, I mean, I think Tatum looks good, just given the matchup and the fact that he's Jason Tatum. I don't think either of those guys being out has a huge impact on him, though. Like, he's the guy, whether they're there or not. He's playing big minutes, whether they're there or not. So we haven't really seen his ownership change. He's still getting 7%. I talked about him in my article earlier today. He looks good. It's just Giannis isn't that much more expensive, and Giannis also is in a great spot. Jokic is clearly the preferred pay up option if you are able to find the money. But you are getting an ownership discount on Tatum at 7%. He is still incredibly good, and it is a very, very good spot. So, if you can find the money for him, and maybe you just can't get to Giannis in a lineup, or you just want lower ownership on Tatum, he's obviously a good play.
Yeah, I got to 1% of Jason Tatum. I got a couple more of his teammates, however. How are you feeling about Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis? They're all basically the same price. They're in the same bucket. Porzingis is the one getting the most ownership. Do you have any one of those guys like pulling away from the other three?
I'm running my stuff again now, but I think that Porzingis looks interesting just because probably plays a little bit more. Power forward is nice. The price tag at 7,800 is nice, so he's getting 15% ownership. Drew, same thing, at 7,400. He looks pretty good, but we don't have a ton of good value on the slate now. So I think Hauser and Pritchard are likely to be the guys that I'm getting a lot of, just because where else am I going to go? At least, with the way things look right now. So, Hauser has been productive this season, and there are minutes available. Pritchard, should play more. Neither guy is dirt cheap, but you're getting 4K on DraftKings to Pritchard, 4,600 to Hauser. Nothing wrong with either of, those prices. For the season, Hauser's at 0.88 DraftKings points per minute. Pritchard's at 0.72. So from a value standpoint, I think those guys just are going to be pretty useful.
I'm getting to a bunch of Hauser. He's in 30% of my lineups right now. That could end up being more. I think I'm being pretty pessimistic with his projection as well. Like you said, 0.88 for the season. I'm at 0.76. I feel like that's a little bit more right. If you're going to be giving Sam Hauser a giant chunk of playing time. That just means he's going to be out there with all of the good dudes more often than he normally is. So I don't get the sense that Sam Hauser is going to be the one soaking up all the usage if he does that. So if I'm still over the field and I can cut his current rate by 1/10 of a point per minute, I feel like I'm onto something there. I also have 17% of Pritchard. Both seem like really nice value plays today.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if really nice is the word, but some of the better ones on the slate right now.
They're solid enough, and against Charlotte, it's about as good as we're going to get.
Sure, yeah. I'm just saying, like, I'm not looking at lineups like, oh, well, Peyton Pritchard's there. I don't have to worry about that spot.
Fair. Yeah, I got to 11% to Jaylen Brown on this last run, 10 of Porzingis. So it really is for me, Hauser and Pritchard.
Yeah, and I like we didn't talk about him, but I like the idea of Jaylen Brown. I always do. He's like Tatum in that I don't think anything really looks different because Derek White and Horford are out. But you're still talking about a $7,900 shooting guard, small forward at 8% ownership, taking on Charlotte. The ceiling for him is very, very high for that salary, and the positional eligibility is great. So, I would like to get there if I can.
Anything else from Boston? You don't think it's going to, should we be wondering, is this going to be O'Shea Brissett at the flat 3 or like Svi Mikhailuk or anything like that? Do you have enough confidence in their minutes?
I don't. We barely have Brissett projected for anything, so he's not showing up for me.
Fair. Yeah, not surprising. Just name and do. Or Delano Banton also picked up some minutes recently, so it's kind of there's a couple options, but I think it's Hauser and Pritchard. Anything else for Boston?
No.
Well, the Charlotte side is a bit of a problem for me today. We'll talk through it. I don't think anything I have in here is all that crazy, but we do have to talk about the fact that obviously no Cody Martin, still no Terry Rozier, no Nick Richards as the backup center for Mark Williams, which led to quite a bit of PJ Washington at the 5, which really just changes the scope of Charlotte. They just concentrate their rotation as well. 5% ownership coming into LaMelo Ball, which, while it isn't a great matchup, does feel mildly sneaky. 13 to Mark Williams and 28 to $5,700 Miles Bridges. He's a giant problem. I have 63% Bridges right now. To me, he's the best play on today's slate relative to salary.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I can see that, I guess. The playing time's been there. We had conflicting reports before the Knicks game where one person said that Charlotte said, Bridges was going to be limited around 30 minutes, even though he'd already played more than that. The other said that he could play more. He played, around 31 minutes. I think as long as he continues coming off the bench, expecting like low 30s in minutes makes sense. If he were to move into the starting lineup, then I think you're just getting that 36-ish minute Bridges game. But assuming he's coming off the bench, that's still plenty at 5,700. He is a productive fantasy option. Through his first couple of games this year, he's at 1 fantasy point per minute. So he does look good. The matchup obviously sucks, but 5,700 small forward, power forward. He's going over owned, 28% ownership, 17% chance of being optimal, but still looks like a good play. And that is, going over owned doesn't make somebody a bad play. We talk about that a lot. He still looks good.
Yeah, I have 63% of my lineups right now. I think that price point is, I assume Miles Bridges is like 6,500 or more moving forward. Like if Gordon Hayward's 6,900 today, Miles Bridges is going to be 6,900, I would say relatively soon. He is a better basketball player than him at this point. I don't mind it. It's just like, probably not the guy I want to cheer for.
That is true. But
he's going to be in everything that I do.
But like you said, he just needs to get the Hornets some wins and people will change their perspective.
Yes, and I'll be getting a Miles Bridges jersey if this dude wins me 100K today. Right. Might not be allowed to wear it anywhere, but I'll keep it on a hanger. Oh, man.
Going out of your way to wear his jersey is making such a statement.
Money's money. So the other guy that we need to talk about is 13% owned, $6,100 Mark Williams. Should we be more interested than 13%, or is that just a function of center? Because now, I get a lot of Mark Williams, but no Nick Richards behind him. He's a 1.17 fantasy point per minute guy so far this year. I have him at 1.15 in 29 minutes. I don't think I have a crazy projection on him. He's in half my shit.
Yeah, so I was getting a lot of him this morning. I'm not now. I'm back to like 2%. He's somebody that I just haven't played this year. And I don't really like it. I mean, he's a good point per minute guy. The matchup, again, sucks, but playing time should certainly be there. We got 30 minutes from him last game. He actually didn't close either half. PJ Washington did that, but he's getting 13% ownership. We only have him with a 7% chance of being optimal. I'm under the field. I have 26% Bridges, by the way. He's my highest owned guy on Charlotte, so I'm with the field there. But I'm not really getting to him. I think he's a fine play. I guess it's probably just the matchup in the position.
Yeah, it's something about that ownership, that minute ceiling. Like if this game can be competitive, like he very well could play 33, 34 minutes if it breaks correctly. Like they're just going to jam these dudes.
Yeah, I mean, the question is he closing halves?
Sure. Which is wild because you would think the answer is unequivocally yes. Like they've had such an aversion to going to PJ Washington at the 5 if Nick Richards is healthy that you would just assume Mark Williams' spot there is totally fine, and yet who the hell knows?
Right. And as far as my exposures on the Boston side, Hauser and Pritchard, I'm getting an absolute ton of both.
Yeah,
58% Hauser right now, 44% Pritchard, 14% Porzingis, 8% on Brown, 4 on Drew. I don't have any Tatum at the moment.
Okay. This is going to be a problematic spot. I need the Charlotte Hornets to stay in this game or it's going to get ugly for me. But for right now, I am very heavy on Bridges, very heavy on Mark Williams.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as that goes too, Greg made the point this morning, and I agree. Like, if you're obviously like this game could blow out, Boston's a hell of a lot better than Charlotte. But if you're like avoiding this game because you think it's going to blow out, then you probably also can't play anybody from the Washington-Milwaukee game. You can't play anybody from the Denver-Detroit game. So
Clippers, Houston. I mean, those are all 8 point, basically 7+ point lines. Like,
right.
You're out of shit after that.
Have fun with your Miami-Chicago game.
Yeah. Like at some point in time, you got to get to somebody. I'm willing to get to these two guys who are stepping into what could be bigger roles. Anything else for these guys? Like Brandon Miller at 5,800, Gordon Hayward. I don't know how you pull that one off at 6,900. Ish Smith getting 4% ownership at 3,300. Do you see anything else? I guess we didn't talk about PJ Washington, who I don't have a single share of.
Yeah, I don't have any Washington. Bridges, like I said, the guy I'm getting the most from this team. I am over the field on LaMelo on DraftKings. He's 9,900, getting 5% ownership. I have 12%. I hate the matchup. I don't love the price tag, but I like the idea of a 5% owned LaMelo, just being a little bit over the field there. Ish Smith showing up around 6% of the time for me. Again, value just kind of sucks today. And there are guys to pay for. Not only are there guys to pay for, but they're all in pretty good matchups too. So just kind of trying to hope for the best on these guys. Smith getting 4% ownership. I have 6%. So those 4, Bridges, Ball, Ish, and Williams, are the only guys in any lineups for me right now.
All righty. Anything else for Charlotte?
LaMelo is going to look better on FanDuel also, if I remember correctly. He's less expensive.
Yeah, 9,700 there on FanDuel. Only 7% owned, though.
Yeah,
so, people still aren't really getting there.
Probably Denver Nuggets cheaper, too.
Yeah. Denver Nuggets, 9-point favorites in Detroit. Let me grab the most recent injury report. I know we're going to have another one coming up here at 5:30, but I have the 3 o'clock, not the 4 o'clock open. Jamal Murray still out for Denver here against the Pistons, 223 total. On the Detroit side, Q tag on Jalen Duren, Q tag on Isaiah Livers, still no Monty Morris, still no Joe Harris, still no Boyan. Killian Hayes is probable for this one after missing yesterday. 15% ownership coming into MPJ, Jokic, Reggie Jackson, close to 20 coming into Aaron Gordon. It should be no surprise here. I'm light on everybody here from Denver, the same way that I was a couple nights ago. That did not work out for me. Nikola Jokic went out and dropped 90, 30, and 30 or whatever common line he just keeps putting out over and over again. Are you getting to the $12,800 Nikola Jokic?
42%.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, and I mean, this is why, as we've talked through these games, I'm getting a little bit of Ish Smith. I'm getting a ton of Hauser and Pritchard. It's just to get to Jokic. I still think he's one of the most underpriced guys on the slate. We're at 6 games now without Jamal Murray, still at 2 fantasy points per minute. Usage rates at about 35%. So that has dropped a little bit from where it was, but still much, much higher than we saw without Murray last year. The assist percentage, so the usage has come down a little bit. The assist percentage is up to 50% now in the games without Murray. So you have seen a trade-off. It's not like the usage rate's coming down and Jokic just isn't as involved. He's still just doing everything for this team. So I'm getting a ton of him. I'm getting a lot of Aaron Gordon I have 40%. The field's at 19. A little surprised that I'm getting as much as I am. Like, I have 40% Gordon, 16% Porter. I'm a little surprised that that gap's as big as it is for me. I thought that with them basically at the same price and the same ownership, I kind of ideally just like have a similar amount of both of them. But I am getting way more Gordon right now. Don't really know what the reason is, but I am. And then Reggie Jackson's a big change for me since this morning. Anybody that watched the show this morning, I was getting a bunch of Reggie Jackson. I have like 4% now. I don't really know why that is, other than I assume Boston ruling guys out. Like, I'm getting so much Pritchard now. That's probably costing me some Reggie Jackson. Jackson's around like a 0.75, 0.8 fantasy point per minute guy without Murray. The playing time should be there. The price tag is fine. I think I'm just going a little bit cheaper for value now.
Okay. Yeah, I've 1% of Jokic.
Oh, you should unregister.
I've got a decent amount. Well, not a decent amount, but like I've got some Giannis, who I think is a little bit more interesting today than he has been previously, especially with the power forward eligibility. But I'm also getting to, as far as pay up options go, like obviously he's not in the same tier as Jokic. I have a boatload of De'Aaron Fox right now, which we will get to in a bit. And then, if I have Mark Williams in half of my center spots, it starts to really thin out getting to Jokic. But we'll take a look. We'll work our way through all of it. Yeah, like the most I have of anybody here is 9% of Porter. These prices, I'm still surprised. Obviously, the spot's great, but this Gordon and Porter ownership, where they're like priced up with Murray out to sort of like their appropriate price tags, but still getting the ownership, I'm really surprised to see it.
I didn't
like. I wouldn't have expected Gordon and Porter to be pulling this ownership 2 weeks ago. If you told me that like Murray was still out and their prices rose, I would have been surprised to see them getting like 15 to 20% ownership.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, the playing time's been nice, but yeah, same page. In the 6 games without Murray, Gordon's at 0.96 DraftKings points per minute. He does everything, which is nice. 19% usage rate, 12% rebounding percentage, 16% assist percentage. So he's not dominating any one category because obviously Jokic does it all, but he is contributing in a variety of ways. So it is nice. There's multiple paths for him to have a good game. But I think the big thing is he's also averaging 36.5 minutes per game in those games. Michael Porter in those 6 games, averaging 33 minutes per game, 1.02 DraftKings points per minute. So I think it's mostly the playing time pulling them up.
For sure. Anything else from Denver?
No, I'm not getting the KCP right now. I'm not getting the Christian Brown.
Are you getting to anything from Detroit?
I have 18% Cade.
I have 3% Cade. If I was getting to anybody, it would be him. I don't really know how you get to anything else until we get this news.
Duran's out.
Oh, well, now that we got the news, that didn't take long. Okay, so no Jalen Duren, which is still like not totally the answer that we need. Assuming we get Isaiah Stewart again at the 4 and Kevin Knox starting, do you have any interest in either guy?
I mean, they certainly look better than they were. So I had Duren in when I ran everything. Not a ton, though. I mean, Knox is up to 4,700. Stewart's at 5,800, which is fine. They certainly look better. I mean, with Jalen Duren projected in, we had Isaiah Stewart with a 1% chance of being optimal and sub 1% ownership, sub 1% ownership and optimal percentage for Knox. So they're clearly going to look better, but I still don't think either one's going to end up looking like a priority.
About $3,300 James Wiseman.
That's really, it's so gross. Like,
he can't, right?
He played 7 minutes in the first half yesterday and then played the final, garbage time for like 16, 17 minutes.
Yeah, it's not, there's no way to project him for enough minutes confidently to get him.
Yeah. I mean, 2 games ago, the Cleveland game, he played 4 minutes, including garbage time. I don't think you can.
No.
It's just like, it's kind of tempting because of the slate.
Yeah.
But also,
he cannot see the floor.
Right, exactly. Like, he doesn't even have to play. And also,
if Livers is back, then I really think it's hard to go to Wiseman. Like, if you get that other body that they want to play back, that's a problem.
I didn't hear. I was talking with
if Livers ends up in, that becomes a real problem because he's a guy that is going to be in their rotation.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, like I said, it's kind of tempting on this slate because the value is not very good. The big piece that you're finding these shitty value plays for is Jokic, who plays the same position as Wiseman.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So looks like Livers is in.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm basically not going to have anything from the Pistons.
Yeah, so I mentioned it before, and this shouldn't be impacted by Duran, but I am getting to Cade. 5% owned, 8% chance of being optimal. I'm getting 18% right now. I don't have any issue with that. It's certainly something that could just sort of go away by lock. Like if some of that Cade starts turning into Jaylen Brown or something, that's perfectly fine. But it is nice, just he's only 5% owned. Obviously, he's a solid enough fantasy producer. And Greg and I were talking about it this morning. Not that you care that much about runbacks in NBA or anything like that, but it is a little bit of an added benefit given that I have a massive amount of Jokic, a massive amount of Aaron Gordon, rather, a lot of Michael Porter. It is kind of nice. The game has like a 10 point spread. If this game does go down to the wire, there's a good chance that Cade played well.
Absolutely. I wouldn't mind having him at all. I don't remember who we got in the argument with for his abilities in comparison to Franz Wagner, but Cade is negative 2.9 EPM on the season, sub 50% true shooting. He has been straight ass across the board, and I'm starting to get a little nervous for the future of Cade Cunningham. Oh, folks, final day. If you don't do this now, you're not going to get it. 20% off any one of the Sims packages you're looking for if you use the promo code Millie. 8 days ago, Short Gamer TV took down the Millie. If you wanted to get the tools that we use to win the Millie, you could do that. But it's not just Short Gamer TV. Shout out to the boss man, Alex Baker, for also picking up a Millie yesterday. I'm a little jealous. Good for him. Picked up the 4444 Millie. I think that's the same one that Short Gamer took down, if I remember correctly, but I could be wrong. Not that it matters. Either way, it's $1 million. Pretty cool, huh? Come use the tool. Millie is the promo code. Links in the description. The promo goes away tonight. If you don't get there now, you're not going to get 20% off. So hurry up. DFS Chief is sick of hearing the promo. Stop listening then, champ. Sorry, we're trying to give you 20% off of our stuff. I'll make sure to read off the next promo where we give you specifically 20% extra costs. Milwaukee Bucks are 10-point favorites in Washington, 245 total. Scattered ownership here coming into the Bucks. 10% to Giannis, 10% to Brook Lopez, like 5 to a bunch of other dudes. I got to 17% of Giannis. I'm kind of just neutral to everybody else. I don't think anybody else really stands out.
No, I mean, it's a great matchup, but it's just tough with this team. I'm not getting a lot of anybody. I have I have all of the starters in at least a lineup right now, but Brook Lopez actually coming in right now at 12% for me is my highest owned guy here. This is a team where if you're getting a lot of them, great. It's a great matchup against Washington, but there's a couple of problems. One, so much of the offensive production just funnels through Giannis and Lillard, who on DraftKings are pretty much priced where they should be. They're a little bit underpriced on FanDuel, where Giannis is the same prices on DraftKings and Lillard's cheaper. But you have that. And so like there's just not a lot of extra production to go around for Middleton, Lopez, Middleton not playing a ton of minutes anyway, Middleton, Lopez, Beasley. But then also, yeah, Washington's a great matchup. So is Charlotte. Detroit's a good matchup. The Kings are a good matchup. The Pels are a good matchup. Like there's a lot of appealing games tonight where Washington, a matchup with Washington doesn't necessarily stand out as that much better than a lot of the other ones. So certainly happy to get to what I can. But like I said, 12% Lopez for me right now, pretty close to the field. I'm only getting to like 2% Giannis, 4% Dame on DraftKings, 8% Middleton. So just kind of having difficulty getting to them, at least on DraftKings. I haven't run FanDuel yet. I do think that they're going to be easier to get to there. They are pulling more ownership there. We have Giannis, Lillard, Lopez, and the Middleton, all double-digit ownership on FanDuel because the pricing is just more favorable.
I don't have anything else really to say here for Milwaukee. It's just Giannis, and that's about it.
Yeah, I think probably a big reason I'm not getting much Giannis, too, is just how much Jokic I have.
I have a lot of your stupid Washington Wizards. 28% ownership coming into Corey Kispert right now. 10 to 15 to Gallo, Denny, Jordan Poole, Kuzma, and Tyus Jones are both at 10. I have 29% Jordan Poole, 21% Corey Kispert, 20% Denny Avdia, 10% of Gallo, Gafford, Tyus Jones, Kuzma's in 6% of my lineups. Apparently I'm betting on Washington keeping this one close.
I have 8 Wizards in at least one lineup right now.
I got 9.
So you have Gafford too. I don't.
I do, but I also have do you have Shamit?
I have one Shamit line.
I was gonna say you have to have Shamit if you're getting Jokic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kispert's the guy that I'm getting a ton of, and that's disgusting, but
Yeah.
I'm getting 42% right now. The field's at 28%. Shooting guard, small forward is really nice. 3,800 is really nice. He's not a good point per minute guy. He's at 3/4 of a fantasy point per minute, but at that price tag, not the end of the world. I'm getting to 18% Avdia, 16% Gallo, 12% Kuzma, 10% apiece to Jordan Poole and Tyus Jones. So pretty much around the field on them. I'm getting like 4% Koulibaly, 2% Shamit. I think from a pricing standpoint, this team looks good. The players themselves mostly suck, but
yeah,
they have a 118 implied point total. The pricing is just pretty fair across the board, and I'm getting to all of them.
Jordan Poole was 8,100 to start the season. He is 6,400 today.
Greg and I were talking about that this morning. Just 0.93 DraftKings points per minute this year. Like, I fully expected Jordan Poole to suck as a basketball player on the Wizards. I thought he would at least put up stats, though.
Well, I'm hoping he does it today with this 245 total. Look, 25% of the time or whatever, the Wizards are going to win this game outright. That's the ones that I'm hoping for today.
Well, if the Wizards win the game outright, Poole probably got ejected.
That's probably true. But yeah, ultimately, I have 10% or more of Tyus Jones, Jordan Poole, Denny Avdia, Daniel Gafford, and Corey Kispert. And I'm not missing on a couple of these other guys. I also took the over on Kyle Kuzma PRA on Prize Picks for today. Anything else for the Wiz?
Nope.
This one should be relatively quick. Miami Heat, 1.5 point favorites in Chicago, 208 total. So this one is, 37 points less than Milwaukee, Washington, which is probably like 60 total fantasy points overall. Bonkers. Highest owned guy for Miami, 9% to Jimmy Butler. I don't see a single priority here. I've got scattered amounts of Butler, Richardson, Duncan Robinson, but like I would prefer to have very little.
Right now, I have one lineup with Richardson, one lineup with Duncan Robinson, one lineup with Jaquez, and that is the extent of my Miami. If you're getting to some Butler, some Bam, obviously they're good. They can still have big games, but like I would just rather, in the Jimmy Butler price range, I'd rather be playing Kuzma. I'd rather be playing Jaylen Brown. I'm sure there's other guys that I'm just not thinking of right now. And then for Bam, he's center only, which is tough. I'm getting a lot of Jokic. I'm getting a lot of Şengün, which is going to be a huge problem potentially. But it's just I'm either getting up to Jokic or I'm not getting to Bam's price tag.
Yeah. It's 5% of Butler is my high mark here. Neither of DraftKings or FanDuel has a guy from the Heat over 10%, over 9%. So it's just when you're giving up 60 fantasy points of production to another game and 50 to 3 others, it's really hard to run that down unless there's pricing mistakes.
Right. And that's the big thing is how many of those games there are. It's sort of related to what I was just saying about, the matchup with Washington being really good, but you can find that in several spots tonight. You have a game in Washington, you have the Hornets playing, you have Detroit playing, like you have the Kings playing. It really stands out how slow and defensively minded this game is likely to be.
Yep. On the Chicago side, it's the same situation. Like everybody that's normally in is in. The highest owned guy on DraftKings is 8% DeRozan. They don't have a double-digit guy on FanDuel. I have 9% of Vooch, 7 of Levine, 5 of DeRozan, 5 of Caruso, and that's it. Like these guys are just random filler as the 8th dude you put into a lineup. No matter what salary spot you have, that's the dude you grab. None of it looks great.
Yeah, agreed. I'm not getting to much Chicago either. It goes without saying that DeRozan, Vooch, Levine are all fine. Kobe White at 5,300 is okay. But I have 8% DeRozan, 2% Vooch, and that's the extent of my Chicago.
Yeah, it's just really hard to want to, like, even if you want to zig while everybody else zags on this slate, like this isn't even the game you got to do that for. There are better fantasy environments where there isn't ownership there either. I don't want it. You grab any of like the real players for either team, by all means, move forward. I'm good otherwise. Can't wait to see what Zach LaVine does in this one. He seems pretty happy to be in Chicago.
Yeah, thrilled.
Well, Vivid Picks, sponsor of this show. Love talking about it because they're giving you guys as much as you could possibly get here. Click the link in the description when you sign up at Vivid Picks. They're another pick'em site, sort of like Prize Picks Underdog. You've heard a lot of these pick'em sites. Deposit up to $300 and they will match it. You put in $250, they'll give you $250. You put in $300, they'll give you $300. There's no, if you play on pick'em sites, there's absolutely no reason you shouldn't take advantage of this offer. Why leave the money on the table? Not only that, you get a $25 secure play as your first play, which means put down 25 on whatever you build out for your card. If it wins, great. Move on. That money is just in your account. If it loses, you'll get that 25 back in site credit. There's really no other way to describe this other than this is a massive value add to the user to start off at Vivid. If you love them, stick around. If you don't, I'm not going to tell you got to be there forever, but I think you'll want to. Given this deal, you should want to stick around and play. Who knows what deals will pop up later on. So sign up for Vivid Picks. Links in the description here. Up to $300 deposit match bonus and the $25 secure play. Well, kind of like the last one, the New York Knicks are 3-point dogs in Minnesota. For the Knicks, Evan Fournier is questionable. Quentin Grimes is questionable. That one mildly matters. Everything else on the Minnesota side is fine. Highest owned guy on the Knicks, either 3% owned Brunson or 3% owned Mitchell Robinson. Take your pick. I got to 5 of Brunson. That's the high mark. And then I only have 1 share of Robinson. This one looks just like Miami and Chicago. Unappealing. I
have 1 lineup with RJ Barrett right now.
Yeah, it's just, again, we've got 1, 2, 3 games in the 230s and that 245 game. Really hard to go to the one with the 214 total with the team that has everybody priced exactly where they should be because they're generally always in. Grimes being out, like, does that open up Dante DiVincenzo for you? Probably not. He's $5K now.
Right, yeah, that's the problem. The price tags come up. The team is mostly healthy. And then you also have a Minnesota team that is 3rd in defensive rating this year. The Knicks are 5th. It's not like they're making up for it by playing at a really fast pace. The Knicks are the slowest team in the league. Minnesota's 19th in pace. It's just very similar to the Chicago-Miami game where they're 2 slow teams that are not bad. In that case, not bad defensively. Here, actively good defensively.
On the Minnesota side, everybody that's around is normally around. Now, I'm getting a little bit more here. 15% ownership coming into Mike Conley, 14 to Jaden McDaniels. I'm getting McDaniels. I'm doubling up that number. 29% of my lineups, $4,200 small forward. He has not been, well, he's been himself since he's been here. 0.67 fantasy points per minute. Never been like a really big per minute guy anyway. And then I just have like 5% of everybody. Edwards, Towns, Reed, Anderson, Rudy Gobert. But I am getting McDaniels and I am getting to a little bit of Mike Conley.
Yeah, this is another team. And it's kind of been like the theme for me as we go through a lot of these. I'm getting a lot of the players that I don't really want, and I'm not getting much of the guys that I would actually like to have. 26% Jaden McDaniels for me, 24% Mike Conley. It's just about the pricing and what is going to let me get to Nikola Jokic. Conley's at 0.85 DraftKings points per minute for the year. McDaniels at 0.67. They're just a little bit cheaper than they should be. They are easy to fit into lineups and then get to the players that I really want. Anthony Edwards and Karl-Anthony Towns showing up 4% for me. I don't have any Gobert, Kyle Anderson showing up in 2%. So, again, like I would love to be getting to Edwards or Towns or Gobert, but it's Conley and McDaniels that are really showing up for me.
Yeah. The Conley one, I hate. I'm fine with McDaniels. I just feel like one day, if he just gets like 5 stocks or something, I'll feel a little bit better.
Well, yeah, but if Mike Conley gets 10 threes, you'll feel better too.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. There's something about Mike Conley now that I just find like wildly unappealing. I don't know what it is. It's just like a mental thing. Yeah, that doesn't help. Yeah, I
mean, 13% usage rate.
Yeah,
but the positive outlook on that is he's produced 0.85 DraftKings points per minute while maintaining a 13% usage rate. It can't go lower.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. But again, between Chicago, and the Knicks and Minnesota, there's not a ton here other than McDaniels and Conley getting the love. Slightly different here. Well, for me at least. Sacramento Kings 1-point favorites in New Orleans, 236 total. So we're back to the games with real totals. No ownership though. Coming into the Sacramento team, 8% to Sabonis is the high mark. It's 10 to Keegan Murray on FanDuel. I have 27% De'Aaron Fox at 9,300 right now. 1.45 fantasy points per minute so far this season. That is not even remotely close to where I have him projected. I got him at 1.28 for the game. I think it's the ownership that's really driving this. I'm curious to see if this maintains by the time we get to lock. But if I'm going to take a stand, I don't mind it being on Fox here against the Pels.
Yeah, I like it. I have 8%, so I'm like 2x the field also. I'm getting, like I said before, I'm getting some LaMelo as a contrarian play in this price range too. But yeah, like De'Aaron Fox at 9,300 is still fine with me. You know, the salary has jumped quite a bit, but he started at such a low point when he came back from injury that it's not really that he's overpriced now. It's just that it's adjusted to where it should be, as opposed to him being wildly underpriced. I'm getting the Sabonis also. He's 8% owned. I have 12%. Those are the only two guys from the Kings I'm getting right now. We are waiting on the Kevin Huerter news, which is big, but
yeah.
Assuming he's in for right now, I'm getting Sabonis. I'm getting Fox. Fox being back has been very good for Sabonis. He's at 1.58 DraftKings points per minute in the games he's played with Fox. You're not expecting those rates to continue, but we talk about it every time Fox gets hurt. It's not good for Sabonis when Fox is out. Fox is such a big part of Sabonis's game, and it shows up, in his fantasy production. So when I can't get to Jokic, it's not a bad consolation prize to save $2,800 and get the Domantas Sabonis.
So let's say we lose Kevin Huerter here and potentially Sasha Vezenkov. That is another person that, does get minutes for this team. How much Chris Duarte do we end up with? Because he did play a couple minutes last time out.
Yeah. And Keon Ellis is already out.
Yes. Keon Ellis out as well, which I think just gets filled by, oh my God, Davion Mitchell just hopping right back into those backup run.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I'm just saying, like, if Huerter is out and Vezenkov's out, we already have Ellis out. Like, you're losing bodies that would potentially take Chris Duarte minutes.
Yes.
So if Huerter's out, I mean, Duarte becomes like the best value on the slate.
Yeah. What are you comfortable for minutes on Duarte then? 26, 28? It depends on Vezenkov, I guess.
Yeah, I'll say it depends on Vezenkov too, but like probably like 28, but certainly, I mean, 28 might even be low. Like if you think about it in terms of, is he as likely to play 24 minutes as he is 32?
I mean, look, if you give him 28 minutes at 0.75, that's a 6.8x play at 3,100. It doesn't matter at that point. He's the clear best value play that's on the slate. You're getting him more than Hauser and Pritchard and all those other guys that we mentioned, all the idiots that are relatively cheap on the Wizards. You don't even have to have an optimistic minutes projection on Chris Duarte to get a shit ton of him.
Right. And also shooting guard, not only is he 3,100, he's shooting guard small forward.
Yeah. So he fits. It's the best positional designation you're going to get. He's going to be massively owned.
Right.
Massively owned. Does that open up anything else to you for Huerter? Are you more interested? Well, you're like incrementally more interested in some of these guys, but like, I don't think you should just start getting a lot of Malik Monk or anything. I don't know how you like, he's already at 5,900. It's hard.
Right. Yeah. Like I think Harrison Barnes looks somewhat better if Huerter's out. I think Monk looks somewhat better. It's just easier for them to get those minutes because we talk about the Kings closing lineup a lot where it's Sabonis, it's Fox, it's generally Keegan, and then it's whoever's playing well for those last two spots out of Huerter, Monk, Barnes, whoever else I'm probably forgetting. But if you take out Huerter, that's just, obviously Duarte could close, but it does, open the door, make it a little bit more likely that you get Monk or Barnes.
Yeah. 1,900 people in here, in the hundreds for likes. Let's hit that thumbs up. We got about 20 minutes to go before we turn this one over to live before lock. I'd like to see that like number over 400 by the time we're done. Yeah, I'm really curious to see where this all ends up for me, just given the fact that I have so much De'Aaron Fox right now. I assume this will be when he goes out there and plays like garbage, since I shit on him, generally speaking. I don't even shit on De'Aaron Fox. I just, prefer Tyrese Halliburton.
Sure. And to the Malik Monk point too, because I saw a couple people in chat say he should play more. We just got this game yesterday with Huerter out. Yeah. Malik Monk played 10 minutes in the first half. He finished the game with 18. Now the game got out of hand, so we didn't get to see the fourth quarter rotation. Maybe he was going to just play the rest of the game and get to like 27 minutes. That's certainly possible, but you didn't have yesterday's game. At least shows you that he doesn't have to play more.
He doesn't really play more a lot. Like he got to 30 and 29 minutes twice, but that was with Fox out. That really changes the scope of the team. When Fox is around, like he's pretty much just going to be around 25 unless you really start hemorrhaging bodies.
Agreed.
Eventually you get to a point where like you just have little ass guards out there. I mean, when they get beat on the front line, they don't exactly have a rim protector waiting for them. They've got Domantas Sabonis, which is kind of the Kings' problem. But shout out to Fox. I hope you play well today. On the Pels side, and obviously we need all of that news. On the Pels side, Jose Alvarado, welcome back. CJ McCollum's still out. Trey Murphy's still out. Larry Nance still out. And Matt Ryan, I believe I saw, is out for like 2 weeks.
Yep.
That did not make the injury report. Let's see if it made the 5:30 injury report. Did it? No, it didn't. He's still questionable. I'm going to question that questionable tag. 10% ownership coming into Zion, about 10 to Brandon Ingram. Nothing else coming into these guys. I got 9 of Ingram, 9 of Zion. I'm good, I think.
Yeah, this is another team where like I really like the matchup. The prices are tough. Ingram also on DraftKings lost small forward eligibility, so he's now just an $8,900 shooting guard. I have 4% Ingram, 4% Zion, 2% Joval. Zion is a totally different play on FanDuel. He is $8K on FanDuel. Just a broken price tag. Should be one of the more popular players on the slate there.
35% owned on FanDuel.
You say 25 or 35?
35.
Yeah. And warranted. I mean, 1.16 FanDuel points per minute this year, 8K against the Kings. Really, really good spot. More difficult, to get there on DraftKings. Joval is really interesting to me. I'm only getting 2%. He's only 4% owned. But with Nance out, like he played 30 minutes last game. The path to 30 minutes is there for Joval. He's a 1.2 DraftKings point per minute guy. He's facing, the Kings. I wish I were getting more Joval, but, also I'm not really trying to give up my Jokic.
How many minutes are you willing to go to Jokic or on Joval today? 28?
That seems about right. I was thinking like 26, but yeah.
Okay.
We have 27. So yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't trust them ever. The problem really is that they do have, not that they're any good, but they do have 2 other centers that could just like play a couple minutes.
But I mean, 34 and a half minutes against Denver, 30 last game.
Yeah, I mean, those minutes are there now with Nance out. I just never trust them. But I'd like to get there a little bit at least. Anything else for the Pels?
No.
Okie doke. Final thing to talk about is quick, guys. Schedule for the rest of the night. I mentioned it before. NBA Live Before Lock coming up next. So you'll get that show from 6 to 7. And then 7:15, NFL Live Before Lock. Chiefs Birds tonight. Go Chiefs. Go Travis Kelce. Gonna be a fun one, though. Actually, I would want to watch that if there wasn't basketball on. Although, I guess there's not a game that's watchable. I guess I have what Knicks Wolves?
Kings Pels?
I guess if Ingram and Zion are healthy, I guess Kings Pels is the answer. Yeah, I guess Kings
235 total, 1 point spread.
Yeah, that's probably it. It's not much else unless you really just want to watch Wemby. But anyway, watch our shows all the way up until 8:15. So you've got at least 2+ hours more of Stokastic content. Also, use our avatar when you're playing at DraftKings or FanDuel or whatever site you're using. As long as you do, go to stokastic.com/avatar, load that picture up on the sites. If you finish in the top 3 of a contest with 5,000 or more entries and you don't have like a crazy amount of dupes, all the details are on the website. You get a month free of a Stokastic package. You really cannot beat that deal. It costs you $0. There's nothing else to do. If you've just got a picture of a basketball or no avatar whatsoever, that's not going to get you anywhere. Use our avatar. You might just walk your way into a free month of Stokastic. That's a $200 value. And all you have to do is have a tiny picture wherever you're playing. And then if you do hit that top 3, tweet that result at Stokastic HOF. Get yourself in the Stokastic Hall of Fame and unlock yourself a month of Stokastic Sims, NBA, NFL, whatever you're looking for. Oh, yeah, but go Chiefs. Go Chiefs. Nobody in the world should want the Eagles to succeed at anything. Especially like Laffy's happiness. No, thank you. No, thank you. LA Clippers, 8.5-point favorites in San Antonio, 230 total here. The selfless Russell Westbrook playing 17.5 minutes that last time out. I'm so happy he was able to go to the coach and say, hey, coach, please cut my playing time in half. This would be way better for me. That's definitely what happened, everybody. Absolutely sure of it. Well, You ready to get to the obvious play for the Clippers? There's so much talent. Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, or you can play 40% owned Norm Powell because I have 45%, and there's basically no way you don't have him if you have all that Jokic.
I have 64.
Okay, that makes some sense. He's not priced correctly, and his
not,
position is amazing.
Right, yeah, that's the thing that really stands out. The shooting guard, small forward. He's at 0.8 DraftKings points per minute for the season. Coming off the bench, but did close last game, got the 30 minutes. The downside, the scary part is in the first half, he played about 10 minutes. Like there are times where Norm Powell probably plays 22 minutes or something like that, and it's going to suck. But at 4,100, he can still, even if you get that game, you still have outs. Like he could just produce at a higher rate than normal and, get you a decent score. So yeah, he looks good. I'm not comfortable with it, but I'm not comfortable with Peyton Pritchard. I'm not comfortable with Sam Hauser. I'm not comfortable with Corey Kispert. It's just sort of a necessary evil on this slate, at least right now. Probably will get a bit less if Chris Duarte were to start for the Kings, but just looks like a really good value play right now.
Yeah, I don't know how you dodge it. Like they're going to have a very tight rotation. All those clowns at the bottom are not going to see the floor most nights. They are tightening this bad boy up. They did bring in Daniel Tice now. I don't think that's even going to carry too much weight. It's just going to be him and PJ Tucker holding it down. What are you doing with the rest of these guys, though? Because there's a lot of ownership coming into everybody else. Call it 15% to Zubac, Harden, Leonard, George, and Terrence Mann. I'm going to guess you're getting Terrence Mann next.
I'm only getting 6% Mann.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of surprising to me, but not a very good point per minute guy. He is 18% owned. So I think it's just that the ownership coming into him is, I don't know, making me get more McDaniels and more of some of these other guys. But
sure.
I'm getting a ton of Kawhi, which
I'm $8,100 Kawhi Leonard alongside $7,800 James Harden. You would think that we had a different salary structure now.
Yeah. So I'm perfectly fine getting 38% Kawhi at 8,100. I don't have any problem with that. He's been a little over a fantasy point per minute in the games he's played with James Harden so far. The question I have, and the thing I don't really love, is very similar to my Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter thing. I have 38% Kawhi at 17% owned. I only have 2% George at 16% owned. I would really like to just sort of, if I'm going to play 40% of them, be 20% a piece. I don't think Kawhi is some drastically better play than Paul George. He is $500 less, but
you also get the shooting guard small forward then from Paul George too.
Right.
Which, I would basically buy that for $500 if I could.
Right. So that's kind of a weird thing in my exposures right now. I don't think, and this is why, we say it a lot, but take our exposures with a grain of salt. It's not saying that I think Kawhi is some great play and George isn't. I think they're both good plays. It just happens to be shaking out right now that I'm getting a lot of Kawhi for whatever reason. I'm not getting much George, but they're very comparable plays. Harden also getting 16% ownership. I'm only getting 2% of him too. So, again, I would really prefer to just be pretty balanced on these guys as opposed to taking a huge Kawhi stand, but that's how it's looking for me right now. And, certainly don't mind that. I'm getting to 18% Zubac, so slightly over the field on him at 5,600.
Watch your profanity. Doesn't like that we hype up the best plays on the slate. He thinks that we should be telling everybody to play shittier options throughout the day.
All you do is hype up chalk. You realize chalk is just the best projected plays, right?
Yeah. If we did the opposite of that, you should never watch us. There are other shows if you want to watch people recommend plays that you should be playing that much. That's
Russell
fine.
Westbrook, 6,200, 17 minutes. Let's go.
Yeah. Get as much as you can, guys. Get as much as you can. Daniel Tice is not going to be owned today. So if you're looking for a pivot to some of the value plays, feel free to jam 40% Daniel Tice. Let him know Adam told you to do it. So I'm getting to Mann. I have 34% of Terrence Mann right now. I'm a little under on George, a little under on Kawhi, a little over on Harden at 7,800. It's really hard to pick one of those dudes. I completely agree with you.
Apparently it's not.
What do you mean?
Hard to
pick. Well, yeah, not for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you in that I would much rather just flat have basically I'd like to have them their ownership is 15 to 20 a piece.
Yeah, that is what if I'm just looking at this and saying what do I think I'm going to get or what would I like to get? It's kind of just I'm going to mix all those guys in 15 to 20%. There's no real reason that I would want to just be taking a massive stand on one of them. I am, and I'm fine with it. I'm not going to start going through the leading Kawhi lineups, but no. I don't see a reason why like I don't know the reason it's actually happening.
No, it's weird too. The solo position to Kawhi, the awesome positionality. It's got to be like a power forward thing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is it's probably, but like power forward specifically because like I can play George at forward.
Yeah, I don't know. Especially with only one 10 o'clock game, like that makes Paul George and Kawhi Leonard look more similar. None of this is going to be fun, but time to, I think, load up a little bit on the LA Clippers, which I didn't think we should do. Sean Gadet with the super chat. Thank you for that, by the way. I'm getting to quite a bit of Kispert and Hauser, but considering reducing to keep roster spots in case of Duarte value opening up. Thoughts? It makes sense. Like, it's not.
Yeah, it's not
a risky proposition.
Right. It's not a bad idea. It could pay off really, really well, but it's also really risky because of how important Pritchard and Hauser look and Kispert, look on this slate. If you get Herter in, you're gonna be pretty hamstrung by what you could do.
Yeah.
Like I'd be more.
I like the thought process. Like it's a plan of attack. A lot of it depends on like how much you're playing, like how many lineups you're playing to a degree.
Right. Yeah. If you're playing like one lineup, I think it's a perfectly good idea. Or, 5 lineups, whatever. I think it's a perfectly good idea. If you're playing 50, 100, 150, it starts to get more risky because you're just
and harder to manage.
Right.
Too.
Yeah. Well, and you just start running into like you're going to be using the same combinations so much if you're playing a bunch of lineups.
Yeah. But like he will, if that ends up happening and you can get to Duarte as a value, like if we get that news, he is going to be an exceptional value option. So you are looking at it the correct way. It might just be a little bit of too much work. But I like where your head's at, Sean.
And I mean, if you go that route, like you do also have outs where if Herter plays but Şengün gets ruled out, like you're getting potentially some Houston value.
Yeah.
But you also might not have that news in time.
Yeah, we might not be able to swap him to Jock Landale or whoever it ends up being. Anything else here for the Clips? They are oddly interesting, which I didn't think was going to be happening anytime soon.
Yeah, I thought it was going to take longer than it did.
Yeah. Shout out to Russ for being so selfless. San Antonio Spurs on the opposite side here. Oh, this team is really not good. Not good at all. I'm trying to get to their injury report. I just lost it. No Devin Vassell, and that is it for today. Everybody else that could be available is available, including all of their crazy people. Blake Wesley, Serge Jabari Rice, Sidi Sissoko, Charles Bediako, Dominic Barlow. I probably should have just made up one extra name there just to see if you could pick out the dude that isn't real. Basically fully unowned across the board for San Antonio. 5% to Collins, Trey Jones. Everybody else is under that. Zach Collins is 6,400 on FanDuel. Power forward center eligible. He's 23% owned there because of that power forward ability. On DraftKings, I can't imagine really prioritizing something from San Antonio.
Yeah, it's tough on DraftKings. I have 8% Collins. I have 6% Champagny. I have 2% Sohan. That's it. The field's not really getting to them. The highest owned guy right now is Collins at 5%. But like you said, I think Collins is much, much better on FanDuel. He's getting 23% ownership because for one, he's less expensive than he is on DraftKings. But for two, power forward eligible is just such a big difference. So I expect that I'll be getting plenty of him on FanDuel, but having trouble getting much of anything from this team on DraftKings.
Yeah, you just need people out. And
yeah, I mean, Wemby's just already so expensive.
Yeah. Man, can you imagine if he were Chet Holmgren, how much better San Antonio would be? Did you see? Did you happen to go and look at any of the advanced metrics that finally got posted at Dunks and Threes?
No.
Chet is 2, 4, 6, 8, 9th right now in EPM.
Wow.
Yeah, his +3 defensively. I mean, he's 6.1% block rate, 1.5 for steals.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. Look, they had a solid enough defense last year without a dude that could protect the rim like that. So
God,
I'm not surprised. Yeah.
It's absurd.
To see him as a guy that is 2 months older than me doing this shit, it's just like, man, I wish I had $1 million to spend on my body.
Right.
Instead, I pump it full of Bud Light and ruin my life. Let's close it out. Houston Rockets 7-point dogs in Golden State, 220 total, 23% ownership coming into Alperen Şengün, 22 to Fred VanVleet. I'm a little bit over on VanVleet, a little bit under on Alperen Şengün, but the Şengün piece is huge because he is questionable. And if he ends up out, also Tari Eason not playing today. If Şengün ends up out, then we get a Flatman, Jock Landale, or whatever else they're trying to do here. Jabari Smith, Jeff Green at 3,500. Somebody's about to fall into a bunch of minutes. But this one's hard to manage.
Yeah, it is. I'm getting 30% Şengün, 22% VanVleet. So pretty much around the field, on those guys, a little bit over on Şengün. The nice thing is, so like if you have Şengün at center, it's going to be kind of tough. Like if you have him at center and you don't have multiple spots, it's going to be a pain in the ass because like you're going to have to go to like Kevon Looney, which is just obviously a downgrade. But at least in most lineups, Şengün will be at your utility spot, which means you can, in a lot of those, just flip him right to VanVleet if you only have one spot open. And then, obviously if you have multiple spots, you can go down to whoever, whether it's Landale, Jeff Green, Tate, and improve somewhere else. So it's not the end of the world in most lineups probably, but it is a tricky spot with this game starting 2 hours after everything else. But I'm getting a lot of those guys. I'm not getting too much of anything else. I have 12% Jabari Smith right now, so that's a little bit over the field. I was getting a ton of Jayshawn Tate this morning. I am not getting to him now, which I'm a little surprised by. 4,100 shooting guard, small forward. I wouldn't hate if some of that 64% Norm Powell turned into Jayshawn Tate, but probably plays, around 22 minutes or so. He's okay as a value, but nothing with Şengün in, at least. Not getting too excited about him.
How much VanVleet did you say you were getting?
22.
Okay. Just straight back to Toronto.
Yeah.
40 minutes, 4 straight. Some things never change, man. It's really crazy. Yeah, I got 30%. I'm cool with it. I assume he'll play 22 minutes tonight. But yeah, if we get Şengün out and it's actionable, like we're about to find massive value. Like if you get Landale starting, that starts to look pretty good. If it ends up being Jeff Green, they could also just go straight to Jabari Smith. Everything starts to look better than for Houston. If you end up getting Şengün out and that happens after 8 o'clock, congratulations. You're going to be playing a shit ton of Kevon Looney.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's tricky, but like the game also just isn't appealing enough that like this isn't a game where I would want to say, oh, well, just make sure if you're playing Şengün, you have somebody else from the game because there's just not enough guys to like in this game, especially on DraftKings. And yeah, it's tricky because Şengün's a very good play if he's in.
For Golden State, we still have no Draymond. Gary Payton is also out. 18% ownership coming into Looney at 5,500. I think he's looking pretty good as a fantasy point per minute guy, playing like 28 minutes tonight or somewhere in that neighborhood. Love the value of Looney. And then our boy is getting some love. Point guard, shooting guard, 4,400. Brandon Pajemski, 16% owned. How much are you getting in your boy today?
28%.
That's not enough, I think. I've got 29s. Surely don't want it either.
No, it doesn't feel great, but I mean, you can understand why you're getting it. He's 4,400. He played 25 minutes last game with Curry back, and none of it was overly weird. Clay played 31 and a half minutes in regulation. So you did get some minutes alongside him. He played more minutes than Kuminga. He played more minutes than Moody. Chris Paul started. So just not what I expected, but yeah, that's what they did. And so it is still scary because they can obviously just change that rotation again. And, he plays 18 minutes and you're screwed. But he's been productive enough when he's out there. The minutes seem to be there. So I need $4,400 guys on this slate, and I'm rolling the dice on him.
Yep, I got nothing to add there. Look, he's been good. Fantasy point per minute. You can't really ask for much more there. Like, that's not typical rookie per minute rates for a guard, for sure. So I like seeing it. I don't like seeing the fact that he's in 29% of my lineups. It does help to have another roster spot, like, locked up a lot in this late game. If we happen to lose Şengün, maybe that you could upgrade to, I don't know, like Jalen Green or something if you free up some salary. Like,
right.
It might create a swap that's useful at least.
Yeah, like, how much is Şengün? 7,900 2K. Yeah, like it's not if it's like Landale, you're not getting quite enough to get from Şengün to Steph on DraftKings, which is annoying.
Yeah. So it at least frees up a little bit of salary if you need it. You getting into anything else from Golden State?
I have 10% Looney right now, which I'm fine with. 6% Chris Paul at 7K. Whatever, he's 2.5% owned. He played 37 minutes last game. I'm not going to have, or 32.5 in regulation. I'm not going to have a lot of him, but I don't mind them as a contrarian play at 7K. Steph on FanDuel, only 9K. Much better play there.
Although it does lose the 3-point bonus, which is quite relevant to him.
Yes.
Anything else?
Nope.
NBA Live Before Lock coming up next. Thank you to Adam. Thank you to Jordan. Thank you to Vivid Picks. Thank you to that guy that hates me. Hope you enjoyed the past hour of your life. We're going to get on out of here. NBA Live Before Lock is here for you guys to take you all the way until 7 p.m. Talk to you later. Peace.
We are back for another edition, a huge edition of the Stokastic Hall of Fame, coming at you hot, fresh off $1 million winner for one of our subs. And man, that is awesome. All you got to do to get involved. Now, he might not need a free sub anytime soon, but you want to get a free sub, $200 value, whether it's NBA, Sims package, everything, NFL, everything, up to $200 for the month. All you got to do, and to get inducted right here in the Stokastic Hall of Fame every single week, download the Stokastic profile picture at stokastic.com/avatar and tweet your wins to us at StokasticHOF. You finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, get a free month. Any Stokastic package you want, up to $200. And, of course, induction right here in the Hall of Fame. Let's get started. First up, Short Gamer TV. Wow. Or what a Sunday. Wow. Shout out to the Stokastic team and the Sims. Couldn't have done it without them. 1 million. Short Gamer TV took down the Millie yesterday. Obviously a very sharp dude, but utilizing the Stokastic tools, the Sims, all of it comes full circle. It's a beautiful thing. Shout out to Short Gamer TV. That has to be the greatest feeling in the world. $1 million win to kick off the week. Peter Hanley's back on the board. What's up, Peter? Got to get that free month and get to play a lot of NFL tomorrow. $13,000. Look at that three-way chop in the NBA Showdown fadeaway, followed by Maxwell Miller. Got second in the 65K NFL Spike on FanDuel yesterday. Thanks to all of you for helping me become a better DFS player. $3,000 win, second place for Maxwell. And Michael Yamada, multiple mini-mag. I love seeing these because remember, doesn't matter if you're entering 25-cent, 5-cent contest. Doesn't matter what you win. As long as you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, no matter the contest, you're in. Free month and up here. Minimax takedowns on DraftKings and a three-way chop for first on Owner's Box. We've been seeing a lot of Owner's Box wins pop up lately. Thankful for the NBA Sims tool as well as the amazing content. Shout out to Michael for 4 takedowns there. Braden, think I'm finally figuring out how to get the word out, Stokastic. Finished second in the Minimax last Sunday at Owner's Box. Again, the tools, especially the Sims, are making a big difference for me this year. Congrats, Braden. And Michael Phillips, Stinger 22. $3,000 win. Sims tool already paying dividends. You love to see it. How about Kevin Cutler? Biggest win so far for me. Thanks to Stokastic and the usual suspects. Haven't even started working with the Sims yet either. Watch out. Let's see that name in lights again. $5,000 for Kevin Cutler yesterday. We keep going. Big ones this week. Brett Shoup, little late posting this one. Another hit due to the awesome Live Before Lock videos. The data is real, my friends. 5K for Brett as well. And Mike Marks, Stokastic Hall of Fame, 3 fire emojis, $250. Second place in the 5K Mini Max with Sean Geezy following up 2 in a row. Second out of 36K entries in the 15K Mini. Shout out to the crew as always. Then he had another one. He's up here a lot. Sean's up here a lot. Another Mini Max win. Shout out to Stokastic crew for the best tools in the game. $500 takedown there. We go to AJJ or AJ245, one or the other. Just shouting out the guys at Stokastic again. Best tools and best knowledge in the game. It's helped me become a better DFS player. $300 second in the 7.5K Mini Max for AJ.
There's big dick energy, and then there's just big no energy. That's Jordan's MO. No energy at all.
His dick's growing inside of his body.
What is happening, guys? It is live before lock on a Monday, and we just start coming off the weekend. Eric and I last did a show together on Friday, and typically him and I don't do shows together on Friday, but there's a little changing around in the schedule. So it hasn't been that long that I've been away from talking to my friend. So Eric, who not only did we see each other in person last week, we got to do a show on Friday. Now he's back in LA at his place. And by the way, while you guys are here, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. What's happening, Eric?
Not much. Pretty excited about, NBA into potentially a really good football game, but I think you put the hijinks on that for no reason today. I'm actually a little bit upset that you would speak into existence that we should all be looking forward to this football game, because you know what happens when I've looked forward to a football game on any evening or any primetime slate game ever? It goes terribly wrong. It is a low scoring dog BS affair. It's just stupid. And why would you do that? Why would you put the kibosh on it before it even starts?
Yeah, so my own personal opinion is that I have very little influence over what happens in professional football games, because I don't know how many people know this. I have never played in the NFL. Never played in the NBA, never played any professional sport whatsoever. So the idea that my tweets from, thousands of miles away could have any kind of impact on a professional, I wish I had that kind of ability. I wish my tweets impacted sporting events. Unfortunately, I fear that's not the case, though.
Yeah, I don't think you did either.
So we shall see. The other thing, too, is if you want to, you could predict every single primetime football game is going to be dog shit, and you're going to be right most of the time. So I wanted to take the other side of this. I want to say, hey, Eagles, Chiefs, there's going to be a show for it tonight, by the way. Right after us, we got Lofty and Neil Orfield going to be on the channel until lock. So right after us, we've got the football show. That's going to run until, 8:15, 8:20 p.m. I forget the exact lock time of the NFL slate. And those guys are going to be breaking it down. So you guys should be checking around for that. And also, check out Vivid, sponsor of our show today, because if you guys haven't signed up there, you're getting up to a $300 bonus on your first deposit when you sign up using the link below. Their standard deposit offer is $100. So this is an offer you're only going to be able to get using our link. And there's also a $25 secure play. So even if your first card loses, no worries. You're going to get it refunded up to $25 in Vivid Bucks. If anybody that you know or yourself has a gambling problem, call or text the number 1-800-GAMBLER. So, Eric, let's go ahead and start looking at this slate. And I think where we have to start is just by addressing what we're going to do with the Houston Rockets. I'm sure that Adam and Josh just talked about it a few minutes ago as they wrapped up their show, as they were going, game by game on the deeper dive. But I think we have to look at this from a broader sense and how we're going to approach the slate, because not only is Şengün questionable to play in the last game of the slate, but that game locks 2 hours after the earlier game. I was talking about this on the strategy show, but what I really wanted for this slate was for it to end at 8. That'd be the last game on the slate, 8 p.m. Eastern time, and then the 10 p.m. Just do like a bigger showdown contest for that, because I fear we're going to get a situation like this. What are you doing with Şengün questionable?
Yeah, so there's kind of two ways to go about it. It depends how many lineups you're making first off. One, you're going to lose a lot of days in NBA DFS as is. It's just the way that things work. You're going to lose more days than you win in GPPs, in tournaments specifically. Cash games, you need to be winning most of the time. That is kind of the way that works. But I think that you got to have some type of an allotment of lineups where you factor it in and say, all right, if he's going to be out, what are my swaps? And that's where you have $400 for Fred VanVleet, but you got to keep things aware in terms of positionality as well. So for me, I've crunched a lot of lineups where I'm kind of giving a boost to centers earlier in the slate. And that by default is getting Şengün into my utility a little bit more. So it's kind of a quick fix to be able to get away from having Şengün be the guy who's primarily there. And then I don't completely hate the idea of building in a lot of lineups. I have more than the field of Fred VanVleet because I want swappability. And I understand that might take away the main option most people will be going to in his absence for $400. But I think for me, it's just getting more swappability to guys who would look exponentially better on a floor without Şengün there. I think Jeff Green's somebody that I want to kind of have preloaded, in a couple of lineups there at 3,500 in the event that he ends up getting more run. Jabari Smith, of course, in that starting unit. There's just so many interesting facets to it. I think for me, the biggest question is what I would project Jock Landale's minutes to be in his absence. And I don't really have a foolproof plan for that, but that's a 3K piece that would go from having basically no minute allotment to having maybe 20, 22 minutes, which on any slate at a flat 3K, you got to be thinking about. So I want to get your perspective about, first of all, what you're doing as well. And then secondly, if you have any kind of like a Landale plan, because that's not exactly a piece that if you preload into lineups, it's going to be easy to swap around.
Sure. So I looked through, and by the way, I am playing primarily on FanDuel today. It's I just like the contest better on FanDuel. So I've got lineup for the purpose of the show. I've got lineups built out on FanDuel and DraftKings, but main slate, I'm only going to be playing on FanDuel, and then I'll be playing like Showdown and some later stuff on DraftKings. But here is the way that I like approaching the Şengün news. I currently have my lineups built, assuming that he's in, but I have some players who I'm going to ROI boost from the Rockets so that I have more of them in lineup. So Jayshawn Tate, Şengün are the two that make the most sense to me to do an ROI boost of. And that's going to give me more flexibility in that later time slot to be able to maneuver my players. Because Jayshawn Tate is somebody who I already think is decent looking, and he would look even better if Şengün is out. And then for Şengün himself, I want to be playing Şengün if he's in, because I don't think the field is going to be playing him. So I think that's the easiest way to give yourself some flexibility is give yourself, if you're using our Sims tool at stokastic.com, do an ROI boost up for Şengün, and then also for Jayshawn Tate. And then there's other players that I'm just getting to some of anyway, like Dylan Brooks, for instance. He's really popular on FanDuel. So these are players who, if I have in my lineups, it's just going to make it easier for me to swap players. Where it gets difficult is if you only have like exposure to one Rockets player.
Agreed. And I mean, there's got to be a way of looking at this. And this is something that I've thought about forever because late swap's such a big part of what I do, what a lot of people do. And we have the late swap tool, which is just so intricate to the process now and such an important piece. But like with 2 hours of nothing, like absolutely nothing between that Houston Golden State game and then the Knicks Minnesota game and that Sacramento Pelicans game and the Miami Chicago game and I think Clippers Spurs, everything's at 8 p.m. Eastern time there. You've got time to be able to maneuver things around, but like there's nowhere to go with that salary. I mean, that's where you have to have a little bit of an acceptance, and it's kind of like a risk tolerance thing. Like if you are going to play Şengün, like you understand that there are opportunities where he's going to get ruled out, and you're either going to have the $400 left over to go to Fred VanVleet, or if you have Fred VanVleet in those lineups, you're just going to be leaving a bunch of money on the table because it's just such a dead range. Chris Paul there is at 7K. I really don't have a ton of interest with him. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson back. So it's probably going to Klay Thompson in some of those lineups, or Kevon Looney there at 5,500 is actually who I project out a little bit better than Paul. You're leaving a ton of salary on the table. So like, I think artificially getting to other centers earlier on is going to be the way that I combat it in a way where I still think, you know, there's power forward centerpieces like Victor Wembanyama on this slate that I have some interest in. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a spend up, guys like that I can utilize earlier in that center spot. And then, yeah, if he ends up sitting in the last spot in the utility, if I don't have VanVleet in that lineup, that's the easy swap. But if it's got lineups with VanVleet, who's a play that I think we all want to get to anyway, I think you're just going to have deader lineups than you normally would, and you have to accept that.
We've got, by the way, anything else you want to add from the Rockets about value plays you might be looking at if Şengün doesn't play? Also, keep in mind, Tari Eason is out. So that's the reason already that I think Jayshawn Tate looks decent is because Eason not expected to play. So I think we had like mid-20s minutes from a relatively cheap Jayshawn Tate. But anybody else that you would view as being somebody you want to get to if Şengün isn't in there?
So if Şengün isn't playing, I expect either Jayshawn Tate or Jeff Green to be starting. I think Jeff Green becomes a little bit more interesting for me on DraftKings, where I'm primarily playing at today. You get him at a super, I mean, it's not that you're getting an exponentially more expensive Jayshawn Tate. He's 4,100. I would still want to have some pieces there as well. But 3,500 Jeff Green here against Golden State. You obviously know that they can go small ball on the other side. Kevon Looney, Dario Saric primarily eating up those 5 minutes. Those minutes at the 5. So like, I think that Jeff Green would probably be my favorite guy to try to rotate and get as much of as I could. It really depends when this news drops. I mean, you're not going to get the starting lineup more than likely right off the bat with it, but I'm going to have a Jock Landale plan in place as well, because it would be a 1-for-1 swap where you could jump in at 3K. I would expect him to be playing minutes as is. As you said, you're going to have Tari Eason out as well. So there's more minutes off that bench where I already have him in the rotation for 12 minutes in the event that Alperen Şengün plays. And I think that it could just be a 1-for-1 backup situation there, pending what they want to do going small. But anytime you play Golden State, it's such like an interesting matchup based thing as well. So like Jeff Green, priority. Jason Tate, priority. Whichever one starts. Also, I would have interest in the guy off the bench, but Jock Landale at a flat 3K. That's the guy that I can't really get out of my head where it's like, all right, I'm going to probably have some dead lineups somewhere tonight.
All right, we got some super chats to answer. Jordan, is the first super chat? So actually, it might just be the one to answer. Is Ace of Spade the one super chat for this show, or is the super chat from Sean also for this show? All right, Ace of Spade. He's asked us his usual question. DK tiers, best options. So I've got this pulled up right here, and tier 1. Very easily, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Did you do lineups for tiers?
Yep, I built out tiers. I'm actually, there's a part of me, I'm going to start playing some of these. We do it every single show. I might as well just be firing some up. So I built some lineups ahead of time.
Yeah, so I played a good amount of tiers last year and had a good amount of success with it. For me, just the biggest issue I run into is like, how many things could I run lineups for right before lock while I'm hosting the show? I know you're a maniac, so you'll play on like 18 different sites. And
see, I used to, and then let's see, we might have more to do behind the scenes than we had once upon a time, Gregory. We might be doing some things. You might be doing some things too that the people aren't aware of, other than winning like 50K a week.
To be honest, it's more than that to start the basketball season. But who's counting? Who's counting the dollars, Eric? Who's counting the dollars? There's gonna be some nice presents being gifted out this holiday season at the Ehrenberg residence, as you know, because I was texting you about
home button, baby. Go find that 2016 iPad for scuba.
So my dad's gift, he woke me up the other day with shopping list requests for the holidays. He wants an iPad, but with the home button. He has a new iPad, but he doesn't like it because he doesn't have the home button. So he wants a new old generation iPad that still has the home button. So that's his
Jordan Klein. You heard correctly. Yeah. Jordan Klein is disturbed on the other end of this. He is just doing the like, wait, what? He likes hitting a button to know that it goes back to the main screen, which I think makes sense, but also, well, that was a big deal back in 2016 when they got rid of it. Was everybody freaked out about not having a home button? Oh my God, how am I going to get back to the home screen? And now it's like, I don't know how to do jack shit because all I've done for 4 days is go on TikTok and try to like learn. And I really don't ever, I can't believe that this is my life right now. It's fine.
Yeah. So if he is not able to navigate how to use a new iPad, which seems to not be the case, he's going to probably have to figure it out. Cause I don't know if I can find like an old generation iPad for him that's still going to work with the new iOS and whatever, but neither here nor there. Tier 2 for Ace of Spade. So tier 1, we both went with Giannis. Tier 2 for me, it is going to be LaMelo Ball.
Yes.
All right, moving on to tier 3. Tier 3, we've got some tighter options. Paul George, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, Anthony Edwards, and Victor Wembanyama. So earlier I remember Ace of Spade had asked us on the strategy show. I don't remember exactly what answer I gave him, but some of them might be different as we've gotten more news over the course of the day. But tier 3 for me is going to be Paul George. I really like how the Clippers look without Russell Westbrook in the starting lineup.
Isn't it great? It's much better. I think that they're going to run into this is a Clippers. This is like a buy low team. Don't you get that feeling like maybe we should have some interest there because they have some moving pieces and they've got some guys that, I mean, they could try to load up for this year only. And the West is more open than normal, I believe.
Like to an extent, right? Because I always think that it's way more wide open than people think. People always will say like, oh, there's only 3 teams that win the championship this year. I never really believe that to be the case. I mean, I bet like the Timberwolves to win the NBA championship last year. I bet the Timberwolves to win the NBA championship again this year. I've got a lot of closing for that line value on it this time. So like I personally tend to think, especially in the last few years, it's been more wide open than most people think anyway. But yeah, I really, really like what the Clippers look like with that Westbrook in the lineup. And I think this is a team that people are way too low on in general. But anyway, tier 3 is Paul George and tier 4 is Kawhi Leonard for me. So I also want to say that my second favorite option in tier 3 is Zion Williamson. My second favorite option in tier 4 is Jimmy Butler. So if you didn't want to play Kawhi Leonard and Paul George together, because there is a negative correlation there, those are my second favorite options in each of those tiers.
There you go. Tier 5, Porzingis.
Tier 5, that is Porzingis for me. Now, with that said, Şengün's a really interesting option here because nobody's going to play him.
Yeah, and then you just go to Van Vliet if he doesn't play.
Yeah. I actually think that's probably... So, like, right now, the answer would be Porzingis. For me, but, like, all things being considered, I actually prefer Şengün and then the pivot to Van Vliet if Şengün's out.
Yeah, it's probably the cleanest. If you're playing anything today, play DK Tiers, because you just go to Şengün or to Van Vliet from Şengün and you play Şengün there. Like, you don't have to deal with any of the other bullshit that we're talking about.
And then tier 6, that is going to be Jrue Holiday for me.
Yeah, same.
All right, let's see if we had any other questions come in. If you guys are in the Discord channel at me, and we can answer some of those questions as well. But Ben Anthony wants to know, outside of Houston, who are the top values? I am late as fuck. All right, so let's see. top values, and I'm fairly sure this is a DraftKings related question. So it can't be Houston, not Houston. Outside of the Houston Rockets, who are the top values in your opinion on DK, Eric?
Pulling everything up here. Yeah, there's a number of ways to look at like early value, because it's all going to be relative to the Houston value later. But I hate saying it because he's terrible, but Corey Kispert's a guy you've heard about on every show today, and you've talked about on every show, and he's 3,800. He can go out and give you some sort of utility here. I'm probably going to just prefer to jam Norman Powell. And part of this is because like that game starts at 8 p.m. Eastern time. It gives me an extra hour where if we find out Şengün news, I can turn it into everything from Houston, or I'm happy to just be sitting with another, decent enough piece. Again, Powell we have for 22.5 here. It's only a $300 difference between him and Kispert, but as it stands right now, I understand Kispert is popular for a reason. He gives you some of that utility and swappability. I have virtually none relative to Norman Powell. Hopefully I get rewarded for that.
Sam Hauser is another one that stands out to me. He's somebody who, number one, I think is kind of blowout proof. Even if the game's lopsided, he's probably going to be playing in garbage time. He's not like the best fantasy producer in the world, but there aren't too many terrific cheap options. So if we're looking at guys who are just outside of that Rockets game, Norman Powell, uber popular today. I think it's warranted. 40% owned on DraftKings. He makes sense. One for me also is going to be Sam Hauser, just brought him up. And then also, if we're looking for somebody who's not all that popular, 14% projected ownership to Mike Conley at $5,100 on DraftKings. Okay. I like getting overweight to the field on Conley.
Yeah. I'm probably not. For me, the guy that's low owned 13%, he's not crazy popular, but Peyton Pritchard, there's an opportunity for him to walk into, he's been a 0.73 fantasy point per minute guy this season. That is going to go up. It just has to. And now, no Derek White out there. You're still keeping all the major utility or all the major usage guys out there. And, Sam Hauser's just more popular. As you said, if this game gets wonky, give me some blowout run for a guy like Peyton Pritchard.
And that's actually, it's funny. That's the follow-up question that we got here from Ben Anthony. Yes, is Pritchard a fun play? Our definitions of fun might be different. Rostering him is a thing you can do today. I don't know if I'd call it the most fun thing.
Well, I would call rostering Corey Kispert at his current ownership not fun. I would call playing Peyton Pritchard a little exotic. It's like macadamia nut ice cream as opposed to vanilla. So there's that.
Jordan Klein, I want you to do me a favor. Can you throw a picture of Peyton Pritchard up on the screen? I want people to know this is what Eric calls an exotic human being.
Okay.
This is, no, he called them exotic.
Is that what no.
Yeah, look, this is...
Why are we doing this now? I'm just saying that he's a little spicier than the other one, because Corey Kispert makes me think of sadness and broken dreams, and Peyton Pritchard, quack, quack. He's at least somebody that I can get behind.
Yeah, if you think Peyton Pritchard is spicy, then I assume you have issues drinking water, because oh my God, this is burning my intestines. It's so spicy.
Relative to what they're going to do, Corey Kispert isn't going to go out and create his own shot. You watch Peyton Pritchard play, he's going to go out and create his own shot from time to time.
Very exotic. Who would you call the second most exotic player in NBA history?
Larry Bird, based on this scale that you've now presented in front of me.
Yeah, there's been some really exotic players in the NBA. Brian Scalabrine, Peyton Pritchard, Jerry West. Who are some of the other ones?
Look at that. He's tatted up. See? He's got what is that? Just a Roman numeral 3? What is that? He's got one on each wrist too. He's got some numbers on his wrist.
Pretty exotic.
I don't know.
Drake was at the Raptors game versus Celtics, and he hopped on the mic.
Today, Junior.
He hopped on the mic in the fourth quarter, and he called Peyton Pritchard a crypto scammer. So there you
go. Called him a what? A crypto scammer? That's kind of funny. He kind of does. I don't know what a crypto scammer would look like, but I could imagine
Sam
that's
Bankman-Fried. So they look like me, kind of.
Eric, why is he exotic? I mean, exotic relative to the ownership, meaning that like nobody's clicking on him in like both. Whatever.
I didn't like how you cut Jordan off. The audience really values Jordan's stories and opinions, and you were very mean to him, Eric.
Well, he was just stuttering Stanley.
Oh my God. You're a bully.
Well, dude, bro, like what, dude?
We don't approve of this around here. We're a family. We're all nice to each other. You don't need to bully Jordan.
Oh, as he just did. Got to get in that Zen pouchy when you start getting a little anxious, bro.
All right. I don't approve of this at all. We're moving past this. So Eric,
if you can't make fun of your friends, like, what are we really doing here in life? Like, you make fun of me on every show, and you're going to call me out the one time I make fun of Jordan when he's like tripping over his words, fumbling like, I don't know, like Sam Howell in the pocket.
Jordan is a beautiful, exotic human being. I'm sorry that you don't view him in the same way you view Peyton Pritchard.
Oh, man.
Drink that spicy water, Eric Lindquist.
I did not go to Roosevelt High. I went to Washington High. Get it right, Guitar Z, man, 247.
All right, let's move on here. We've got some more super chats that are coming in. The next one is from, get the order right. Here we go. Anthony Peters. He's saying Stewart, Lopez, or Looney on FanDuel. They are priced the same. All right, so he's asking us.
Probably Looney, because Looney can turn into the most stuff later.
I'm going to answer Looney as well for basically the exact same reason as you. I think most of these guys are pretty similar. I don't have as much of Stewart as I have. I have around 10% of Lopez and Looney, but Looney, just having him in lineups, it gives you more flexibility in the event that Şengün gets rolled out. So I'm going to agree with you from that as well. So Kevon Looney, let's go with him as the answer for those three guys that Anthony Peters has laid out for us. And now let's see what we have coming into the Discord channel. If you guys haven't done yet, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel in Discord. Questions that we have rolling in here. This one is from R. Schindler 14. He wants to know, would you avoid Şengün in cash games? Killian Hayes available to play.
I saw that. So that's annoying.
Yeah, I would have liked to have been able to play Jaden Ivey, but Killian Hayes makes the Pistons even more of a mess than they already are. Yeah. R. Schindler 14, do you avoid Şengün in cash with the uncertainty and no other games to swap to? Yeah, playing him in cash is super, super risky.
No, thank you.
Draft Keem running the Sims and getting 95%. Powell, should I let that ride on DK? Yeah, I don't have an issue with taking a big stand on playing a bunch of Norman Powells. You, Eric?
No, play a lot of Norman Powell. Again, I'm jamming him. I won't have as much as I have right now, I hope.
We have a question here from, by the way, Mikal Bridges. Miles Bridges. Had the wrong one. Starting for the Hornets.
Oh shit. Yeah, that's gonna be important. He's already popular. He's now gonna probably end up being one of the more popular pieces in my lineups.
Yeah, so we'll touch on that. Let's finish wrapping up answering these questions, and then we'll go and we'll check the projection updates that we have on the Hornets and where Bridges stands now that he's going to be starting. And Quentin Grimes also.
I mean, where are his minutes really going to go, though? It's his third game. He's already played 33, 31 minutes. Like, are we going to take him from 30? Like, are we going to take him from, what do we have him at? 33 and a half. Are we really going to put him at like 36 now, though?
Probably. Maybe, actually. What did he play? I don't even remember now.
Played 33 and 31 minutes.
No. I'm just 2 years ago when he was a starter. How many minutes was he playing per game?
Oh, he was playing 36, 38. There were games that he would play 40 a night. He was playing a ton back in the day.
All right, let's pull this up.
Again, it's been a second because he got put in timeout as he should have. He should have been put in eternal timeout, but that is beside the point. Miles Bridges, 38, 40, 38, 40. I mean, he was playing massive amount of minutes. The one thing you have to remember, though, is that completely different team 2 years ago. You didn't have a rookie that you definitely want to make minutes for here in Brandon Miller. You still have a healthy Gordon Hayward, PJ Washington. I mean, is there like anybody that's really changed in a massive, like who was there 2 years ago that isn't there now?
For tonight's purposes, Terry Rozier.
There you go. Thank you. That for me in my brain, I just had to like play it out there. And it's basically like maybe not a 1-for-1 in terms of usage, but Brandon Miller is going to be made way for big time. But like, yeah, I think I'm going to put Miles Bridges up to 36 minutes. I'm probably just going to get a little bit more of him and end up having way too much.
And part of the Miles Bridges being out, which it's annoying that this is a positive for him from a fantasy standpoint, but just the reality of what the situation is, like not even getting into like whether he should be playing or not or any of that. But if we're just talking about DFS purposes, he wasn't out because of an injury, Eric. So there's no real reason for them to have to limit his minutes. I would feel differently if he missed all of last year with a torn ACL. I think they get him right back to 35, 36 minutes.
Gotcha. Okay. Well then, yeah, we're gonna end up getting to a lot of him, aren't we?
Kenny Wayne, this is going to be a question specifically for you, Eric. He wants to know, is 100% Peyton Pritchard too exotic?
Yes, that is way too exotic. Again, right. That's not racist. I'm talking about a white guy being like exotic is in like the play relative to the ownership, not anything else. Like it's such a ridiculous claim that somebody would say that. David Eckenrode, come on.
Yeah, he's talking about his penis size and the amount of glitter that he puts on it. That's it, nothing else. Next question is from JEW. He's getting to 100% Bridges, Hauser, and Powell for DK. Thoughts for single entry? Well, if you're just playing one lineup, you're going to be 100% on everybody.
Then
but
you're having I was going to say that's the definition of 100% across the board.
I don't have an issue with Bridges, Hauser, or Powell for single entry.
No, I have zero problem with that.
Iron Maiden 2 wants to know thoughts on Jokic. He feels hard to get up to without sacrificing some ceiling. He's my favorite pay-up option on this slate. I have no issue getting to Jokic.
No problem whatsoever.
We were projected for right around 70 fantasy points, which there was a slate I was doing. I can't even remember which day it was last week that Jokic was on. Actually, I think it was the Friday slate. We had Jokic projected for north of 70 fantasy points. And it's like, oh my God, like at first glance, like how can anybody be projected for that many fantasy points? And you look at, he's scoring 2 fantasy points per minute for the year. And then even that day, he ends up scoring like 78 fantasy points or something like that. He's difficult to get away from.
I agree. And I mean, this is one of those spots too, where if you preload a little bit of value from Houston, you could just be sitting on the nuts with some of those lineups. So like you really want to, I mean, on DraftKings, that's one thing that I am doing is I'm building out a couple of lineups where, hey, I think that you're gonna get something like Jeff Green starting. You're gonna get Fred VanVleet extra usage and opportunity. Like, I think there's some ways to build those lineups around Jokic ahead of time. Because again, how many times do you lose an NBA DFS over the course of a season? A lot. Well, if you're risk averse, build some out that way, because if other people aren't, they can't have the absolute perfect pieces in there without building it in ahead of time. But again, that's why I'm preloading everything with as much Norman Powell as possible, and we'll then have to reroute some things to make it work before that lock of the 8 p.m. Eastern time games.
We just got projections updated for Bridges, and yeah, we plugged him in for 35 minutes. I think that's totally reasonable. So adjust to that information, fellas. We've got Bridges now projected for 35 minutes, which has him at 30.14 fantasy points on FanDuel, and on DraftKings 30.68 fantasy points at $5,700. Listen, he's a good play, somebody to get to tonight.
Yes.
Next question in Discord is coming to us from S.A. Johnson 98. Wants to know, who am I most underweight to on FanDuel and overweight to? Yeah, let me go and look. All right, so most underweight to, let me sort by ownership and see who's popular that I have less than the field of. So on FanDuel, I have less of Paul George than the field. Though it's not like some sort of like insane stand, but I am underweight to him.
Yeah.
I am pretty underweight to Brook Lopez. Lopez is projected for 15% ownership on FanDuel. And as I update everything with some of the adjustments I'm about to make, I'm probably going to have like 5% Brook Lopez. He's somebody I'm going to be pretty fairly underweight to. The player I'm most overweight to by a mile on FanDuel, Jokic. Jokic is only projected for 14% ownership, and he's going to be in somewhere around half my lineups. So that is going to be by far my biggest FanDuel stand. Do you want to do that for DraftKings, Eric? Yeah.
So the guy that I'm by far shorting the most is Corey Kispert. He's projected for 29.5% ownership. I currently have 2. So I have 2%. Then the guy that I am by far the most overweight to is Kawhi Leonard at 8,100. He's pulling 15.7% ownership. I currently have a little bit more than double that. And then here's the thing. Norman Powell, I guess I would technically be over the most, but he's already the most popular player on the slate. I have 85% of him. But again, I'm going to be distributing that elsewhere if that news becomes known to us what happens with Houston before a lock.
One other thing I want to ask you, because now that we have this starting lineup for the Hornets, Bridge is going to be in it. He's going to be a high usage guy. Does this negatively impact any other Hornets players?
See, that's what I'm trying to do right now is that I just reran some stuff. I'm looking at add more funds and trying to piece together exactly how I want to handle it. I mean, it's not like Charlotte was going to pull any kind of ownership for me anyway. I have a couple of shares of Ball in my 50 lineups. I have Mark Williams, but I mean, Miles Bridges, I went from having, right around the field, 24, 25%. Like, I'm having a tough time keeping him out of lineups here now. He's been super small sample size, 2 games, but a 1.03 fantasy point per minute guy right around that, though, 2 years ago when he was playing 5,700 with small forward eligibility. That's a huge deal. Small forward, power forward. I mean, it is a really good piece to be getting to here if we're going to increase his minutes even 2 or 3 from the 33.5 I already had him for. So I'm rerunning everything now, so I can't tell you exactly the way that's going to work out. All I know is that Norman Powell, he's no matter what going to be the most popular play I have because Miles Bridges locks a little bit too early.
Yeah, I am right now updating everything for myself as well. Now that we have the updates on some of the Hornets there, and it doesn't look like anybody got significantly downgraded for us of the players that matter. Like I just checked LaMelo Ball, our projection from fairly similar to what it was before, some changes, but nothing really all that significant. So it's like, a little bit of decreased projections for the other starters on Charlotte, but really what's going to benefit the most here, or what's going to change the most, is getting to a little bit more of Bridges. And then in addition to that as well, if we go over the starting lineup, is Ball, Miller, Hayward, Bridges, and then Williams. Is PJ Washington just has to look worse now.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's got to be the major guy. Again, I guess I didn't even really answer your question there to begin with. I mean, it's nice to know that Gordon Hayward, I don't really have to go out of my way to go try to play at 6,900. I'm not going to be getting to any of him. I have zero interest in playing a 3,300-ish Smith unless you want to just try to randomly, hey, let's play the blowout game. This one is a pretty obvious candidate for that, but I don't think I get a whole lot out of 3,300 world traveler-ish Smith. Has he played on damn near every team in the NBA at this point? Probably, but yep. I think Miles Bridges is going to be a clear-cut priority now. I think Mark Williams is still somebody that I'm going to get to because, it doesn't really affect his double-double ability here. 1.18 fantasy point per minute guy under varying circumstances. And LaMelo Ball, I do think, they're going to have to share the floor a little bit more. So maybe take a tiny bit down, but he's already 5%. So I feel like you're kind of not double counting it, but you're almost discounting him for something that's already discounted by the ownership.
Yep. No, that makes sense. And let's go ahead and get back to some of the other questions and a few super chats here. One is from Shikari Mfood, wants to know best DK plays per position.
Yeah, this is actually an easier question than you would think it would be. I think point guard is very clearly Fred VanVleet, regardless of what happens with the news there. I think shooting guard small forward is definitely Norman Powell. And it's not that I want to play a bajillion percentage of Norman Powell. He's the most popular play on the slate as it is, but he gives you utility and an extra hour to work with those lineups and kind of craft them the way you want. I think power forward is very clearly Miles Bridges now. And I think center, Alperen Şengün is the best play of the slate if he ends up playing. He's currently projected for the most ownership. Looney, it's nice that it's another center that's there at 5,500, but I think Jokic, I'm with you. I think that's just somebody that, as I'm building things out with more Bridges, with more Powell, with more Looney, I have the money to be able to go get Jokic. So I'm going to do it.
Next question that we have here, and I agree with everything you said there. I don't have any real bones to pick or any issues with it. Corey Randall said thoughts on Chris Duarte. Yeah, so Chris Duarte is an interesting one because Kevin Huerter, one of the key players on the injury report, is questionable. Now, I'm not planning on playing Kevin Huerter whether he's in or out, but if he doesn't play, Chris Duarte, this is more DraftKings specific. He'd be viable on FanDuel without Huerter, but especially that cheap price point on DK. Duarte played over 30 minutes starting in place of Herter last game. So as of right now, my thoughts on Duarte are don't play him, but that's very contingent on the status of Kevin Herter. If Herter's out, Duarte very quickly becomes one of the top value plays of the night.
Yeah, so just to talk about yesterday, if you played that slate, I saw that there was going to be overlay like 20 minutes before the slate popped up. I was building NFL Showdown stuff and was like, oh, guess I'm just going to jam. And then Chris Duarte was starting. He's still 3,100. Again, this is why we're playing Powell. You want to know why I have so much Powell relative to a guy in Corey Kispert? It's because I hope this news comes out after lock, because everybody who plays Corey Kispert, if this guy doesn't go out for 24-25, I get a chance to capitalize on Houston news. I get a chance to capitalize on Sacramento news. And Chris Duarte would be my highest owned player if he ends up starting again. 3,100. I don't expect him to go completely berserk like he did yesterday. He had 2 steals early on in that game that really buoyed the box score. Shot 3 for 4 from 3. He's never going to be a high usage guy. Stayed out of foul trouble, which was nice. But there's no doubt with shooting guard, small forward eligibility, 3,100. If he starts again, you're just going to jam him. So like, it's not that difficult to see a path where that works out. So play more Norman Powell and then move things around later.
Next question that we have here is from, and also just backing up what Eric said, there's just so many games that are starting around the same time. This is one of the ones, it's just going to be easy to make changes to. The only one that's really difficult is, the Şengün situation.
Yep.
Nick Thompson. Does Jose Alvarado get enough minutes to be a good value? I don't think so. Not tonight.
Not tonight. Also, like Jose Alvarado, let me double check because I did the minutes earlier today for New Orleans and it was just wonky. Because Jeremiah Robinson Earl is in this rotation and I didn't even realize that because I didn't play DFS on Saturday. But Jonas Valanciunas has been useful, throwing that one out there. Got to be interesting without Larry Nance out there. Going to be interesting. You get Zion back, which is a little bit frustrating. But with Zion out, that was such a clear-cut spot, and I was pretty mad I didn't play DFS that day. But I'm not going to have any Jose Alvarado. I got him for 16 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think Alvarado's the guy to play tonight. Now, I know in the past, there have been times that CJ McCollum's been out and Alvarado's, played, but he's been out the entire season. So I don't envision him playing a ton of minutes right out of the gate. There's going to be Jose Alvarado slates this season. There always are, but tonight isn't going to be one of them.
Yeah, and Jordan Hawkins there now too. I mean, that's just, he's the 14th pick. They have some equity wrapped up in him. Top 15 pick there in the draft. And he's had some breakout games. He's played decent in spots. You're never going to see the usage get up to where he's going to be viable coming off the bench with Dyson Daniels being the primary starter there. But definitely something to pay attention to going forward, just not today.
All right. So let's get ready to do the nuke of the night here in a second. Only 15 minutes left to go. So Jordan, I'm going to answer one question in Discord, then we'll do nuke of the night, and then we'll follow up by answering the rest of the questions in here. But first, we've got Clintonwood 83 asking who's the best pay up for cash today? Jokic.
Yes, by far.
All right. Let's do it. Nuke of the night. Jordan, hit the animation. Let's do it. Here it comes. Oh my God, this gets me so fired up. Look at that. Nuke of the night. Eric, who is the best tournament play today? Who is the nuke of the night that's going to blow up the slate?
All right. So I'm going to keep this away from Houston news. Because Houston, whatever happens with that is going to kind of be the key to the evening. You're either going to want to have all the Van Vliet and all the Şengün, or you're going to want to have none of the Şengün and all of the value pieces around him. But there's one guy that, I mean, it's just kind of wild to me how back and forth people have been on him all season long because, oh, he looks so good. Oh, he's going to be a bust. Oh, he looks so good. He's going to be a bust. We have a 4% Victor Wembanyama on this slate at 8,800 against the Clippers, and you have no Devin Vassell out there yet again here. Have you watched him play in some of these games where he's had pretty limited minutes because of blowouts? Let me just go down the line. They've lost infinity games in a row. I can't even remember how many it is at this point in time, but he's only played 28, 31 minutes the last 3. Eventually, the Spurs are going to walk into a competitive spot where eventually Victor Wembanyama plays for 34 minutes. and you're going to want to have him in your fantasy lineups. He's a 1.38 fantasy point per minute guy so far this season. He blocks shots at an absolute ridiculous elite rate, and he's sub 9K, which will not be the case if he ever gets up to averaging 34 minutes a game. He has a 31% usage, sees another little tick up here in the absence of a Devin Vassell. He is only 4% owned, and that is just so clear-cut to me to play double, triple the field of him.
So I am not going to avoid the Houston situation because I have one player who I think could really end up getting overlooked here on this slate. One thing that we've seen the Rockets do, a pretty good amount in the last year when Şengün's been out, Jabari Smith center games. And that's a spot where he's really, really succeeded at. He is not expected to be all that popular. And, even if Şengün plays, I don't think it's the end of the world if you had Jabari Smith Jr. in your lineup, but I love his upside that I don't think people are really going to be getting to. So my nuke of the night, it's going to be Jabari Smith Jr., Eric.
Love it. I love that call. And again, who do you think the starter is? Let's just say Alperen Şengün's out. Who is the starter?
Yeah, so I am going to assume the starting lineup would be Van Vliet, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Jae'Sean Tate, and Jabari Smith.
Okay, I think it's going to be Jeff Green. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's Jae'Sean Tate. I wouldn't be surprised. There's like a 5% chance I think it could be Jock Landale. So I'm with you. We haven't seen Şengün out here, so it's hard to know with the new pieces, the acquisition of Dylan Brooks. I just think that they're probably going to go to Jabari Smith at the 5, and so I think that makes sense for it to be Tate or Green more than likely. But Jabari Smith, really nice shout out here. The Rockets are on a back-to-back here, but as you said before, Tari Eason out. I think you just want to have exposure to Houston and figure it out later.
See what we have in the super chats here. And we've got Jorge Giacomi said, thoughts on Jalen Pickett as a value play today?
Interesting. I hadn't thought about Jalen Pickett until this very moment. So I'm going to say no.
Yeah, not somebody I'm rostering. He's dependent on blowout run. And is it live for the Denver Nuggets to go out and just absolutely smash the Detroit Pistons? Yes, the Nuggets are arguably the best team in the NBA. The Pistons are arguably the worst team in the NBA. But with that said, the spread is 9 points for the game. It's not some massive chasm between the two teams. It's not like we're looking at Denver favored by 18 points or anything like that. So I think that Jalen Pickett is most likely going to be playing like 12 minutes or something like that. If there's a blowout, sure, maybe gets up to like 16 or 18 minutes. But that's a no for me, not somebody I'm rostering. It's thinking a little bit too hard for an 8-game NBA slate.
Yeah, and also you have to get everything else right anyway. Like you have to get all the other pieces correct in your lineups as it is. And like for me, it comes down to like that's just a lot of risk to incur to roster a dude that could sink your lineup before it even starts. And like what time is that even locking at? Like that's I guess that's locking around everything else here. No, it's the first game. There should be absolutely zero of him in your lineups. I will say that right from here. That's just not a play you need to make today.
All right. I just uploaded what I assume is going to be the final version of my lineups, at least pre-lock, unless something crazy changes in the next 9 minutes. So I'm all set and ready to go for that. More questions that we have here in the Discord channel. One of the perks of being a Stokastic member, by the way, is you do get access to the Discord channel. You can ask us as many questions as you want during, after, and before shows. And also, if you guys haven't signed up for our NBA package or NFL package for that matter, now's the time to sign up with the promo code Millie. It's going to get you 20% off. You get access to either whichever one you want to sign up for, the NBA package, the NFL, you can sign up for both if you want with that promo code Millie. Is going to get you 20% off, and that promo is ending tonight. So we've been thinking about trying out the Sims tool. Do with that promo code Millie and get yourself 20% off when you sign up with that link below. Next question we have in the Discord channel. This one is coming from T. Lee. Tim Lee says, flag plant by position, and also great hit last week. Thank you, Tim. But yeah, let's go through exposures we have. You want to do it for DraftKings and I'll do it for FanDuel, Eric?
Sure.
All right. So let me pull this up in the Sims tool and then I can just filter.
So flag plant being our highest owned at each person in the position, or flag plant is in like somebody that we're well over the field on?
We'll say highest owned at each position.
Okay, there you go. Fred VanVleet, point guard.
For me at point guard, that is James Harden on FanDuel. He is somebody who's very hard to avoid on FanDuel. We've got James Harden priced at $7,200 on FanDuel with no Russell Westbrook in the starting lineup. Chalk piece that I really do like. So point guard is going to be James Harden. For me at shooting guard, Dylan Brooks.
Norman Powell.
Small forward, Sam Hauser for me.
Norman Powell and Terrence Mann.
Power forward, Zion Williamson.
Zion Williamson, not the case for me. Miles Bridges by a mile.
And then center, this is my biggest stand on the slate, is Nikola Jokic. He's in 44% of my lineups, and he's only projected for 14% ownership.
I have 100% of him in 50 lineups.
Next question that we have here is from Kapanakella. He asked, who's the nuke of the night? We already hit on that, but then he also wants to know, who are we playing in DK single entry? I'm the same guy that I've brought up a few times now. Nikola Jokic. I know he's really expensive, and I know it's a little bit of a pain in the ass because we don't have like an overflow of crazy good value on the slate. But because of that, people are not playing Jokic as much as they should. So to me, he's the guy to play in single entry.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be Nikola Jokic. I mean, this is too easy for me now. As I've started rebuilding stuff and trying to mix things around, I'm just going to have 100% of him.
JEW is asking us a 1v1 question. So can you pull this up, Jordan? He wants to know Kawhi Leonard or Kristaps Porzingis for a DK single entry. Kawhi Leonard. Kristaps Porzingis.
Kawhi Leonard for me. I've come down a little bit from because I was well over the field. Now it's like 25-ish%, but I still like Kawhi a lot more.
All right. Eric is going with Kawhi. Something else also, I mean, Kawhi's $300 more expensive. So that's something, if the price doesn't really matter, that will also lead you a little bit more towards Kawhi. And yeah, here we have Kawhi, basically identical ownership between the two, but Kawhi winning 55% of the time to 45% of the time against Porzingis. So Kawhi Leonard, that's going to be your answer. And that was also the way that I lean on there. Opposite EXO, favorite player from the 4 p.m. games. So I assume he means
Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges by a lot.
Jokic for me.
Oh, I guess both of. I mean, I have 100% of one, and I have 78% of the other. So there we go.
Jokic is my answer for I think the last 4 questions we've gotten.
Evan Fournier ruled out. That doesn't do a whole hell of a lot for me.
It does nothing because I didn't think he was going to play.
I didn't think he was either.
KML.
Hey, I did call he was going to play on Friday. That was enjoyable. It was just funny to watch him go out on the court in the first sub. That was fun.
And ended up with whopping 6 fantasy points.
He was so bad. If you watched, he just is so dusty, man. It's tough to watch.
KML 650 wants to know Koulibaly or Sam Hauser for a DK GPP. I really do like Sam Hauser tonight, so he's going to be my answer.
Yeah, Sam Hauser's just fine for me.
Sam Hauser. And then the other side, he had asked about Koulibaly. Like, I don't think Koulibaly is a bad GPP play, but he's somebody who, like, I have some exposure to, versus Sam Hauser is just showing up in a lot of lineups for me. So I kind of have to answer Sam.
Yeah.
Hauser.
Sims tool right now. Sam Hauser, definitely somebody that is taking off in my lineups a little bit more.
Next question is from John Good. John Good is saying $4,100 left on DK. Do you guys like putting in Tate or Mann, or wait on the later news instead of going Pritchard in the first game? Yeah, I go Jayshawn Tate.
Yeah, I would play Jayshawn Tate. Yeah, there's no way.
And that's also, that's kind of waiting on the later news also, right? Because if you go Jayshawn Tate, he's already somebody who's serviceable. And then if you get Şengün out and he starts, he looks even better. If somebody else starts instead of Jayshawn Tate, you could play that guy instead of Tate. So I think Tate is the best way to go here. Terrence Mann is somebody who, when I was running Sims earlier in the day, I was getting a lot of, but my final exposure to Terrence Mann is like almost non-existent.
Yeah, it's well, no, I'm getting to Terrence Mann. He's a placeholder though. Absolute placeholder.
Yeah, I have him in 1.3% of my final FanDuel lineups. So I'm going to be hoping that he does not have a very big game today.
Well, don't forget, we have Chris Duarte. He could turn into something. Again, this is just like, for me, trying to make sure that I don't completely bypass everything going on in these early games. But yeah, they're definitely not going to be a priority other than Jokic and Bridges. Jason
Robinson wants to know, is Campaign a usable swap from Kispert in tournaments? So I think there are ways to pivot off of Kispert, but I would not do it with Campaign.
I have 0% Corey Kispert. This is going to hurt.
All right. So what is the salary? Kispert is $3,800. Who do we like the most at $3,800 that's not Corey Kispert?
I mean, the answer is going to be something in Houston or something in Clipperland or something. I mean, 3,800, it'd be a pretty dead zone as it is right now without news.
I am going to, so like, here's the leverage play that makes the most sense to me here. I would say Gallo. Same team, okay. Same price. If you're playing Kispert in like the forward spot, I think you make a case for Gallo there. To me, there isn't that big of a difference between Gallo and Corey Kispert. Kispert's going to play more minutes. Gallo better points per minute fantasy producer. I don't love either of them relative to their ownership, but if you really want to pivot, if that's what you're trying to do is pivot off of Kispert, I would say Gallo.
That's fair. Yeah, it's probably Gallo, but again, I'm not all that enthusiastic about it.
All right. How are you doing on your lineups, by the way?
I just got my last set in here. I think I'm good to go. I had to fix my 88 lineups and then, or the 550 lineups, the $88 just to get everything situated. I like the smaller 88 today, by the way. If DraftKings could run that every day, just 10K to first, that would make me very, very happy.
So we are actually approaching lock. They came really close.
I was starting to get a little freaked out. I was like, all right, I might have more Reggie Jackson than I would want, but I'm okay just getting my lineups in. So it is what it is.
I have a good amount of them on FanDuel. I'm totally fine with it. If it was a slate that had better value available, maybe I wouldn't be getting to as much of Reggie Jackson. But when he's $4,800 starting, I have him like a third of my lineups. I'm okay with that. I don't know.
He's 5K on DK. I probably wouldn't want to have as much as I do, but it is what it is.
How much of the exotic Peyton Pritchard did you finish with?
I swear to God, everybody. I swear to God. I will tell you ROI. Let me double check here. Peyton Pritchard. I have 20% on the number.
14% for me.
All
right.
It's exotic. That's an exotic number of him. My God.
Guys, this brings us to lock. If you've not done yet, do us a big favor. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And right after us, NFL Live Before Lock. It's going to be starting up in a few minutes, breaking down what should be the best regular season football game of the season.
Oh, no.
Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia Eagles. So guys, stick around and watch Lofty and Neil break that down. Good luck tonight.